Good morning, everyone. Jeremy Knauff here with another episode of the Public Relations Declassified live stream. And we're going to be talking about something today that is really important. It's foundational when it comes to public relations, branding, reputation management, all of this stuff. And that is how 4 ways to get defamatory content taken down. Now, this is something that, first of all, there's a lot of myths and misconceptions about this, right? There's not as many ways to get content taken down as some people seem to think. A lot of things that people think will work won't work, and some approaches can actually get you into some legal trouble as well. So I want to break down these 4 ways to get defamatory content taken down, so that you guys can come out here and really protect your brand, protect how people perceive you when they look you up online. So the first one that we're going to outline is something that I definitely do not recommend. We'll go ahead and hit this one first, since it's something that I don't think you should do. And that is hacking, or a DDoS. You all know what hacking is. A DDoS is, that's an acronym for distributed denial of service. Basically, they leverage a shitload of other computers, typically by installing some kind of malware that takes control of their computer and allows them to build essentially a network of zombie computers that they can use for all kinds of nefarious purposes. I will point out that this is 100% illegal. There is no gray area here. So if you do this, first of all, if it's not something that you already know how to do, you probably aren't very experienced at it, and you likely will get caught. And when that happens, you're going to end up going to jail. And we're not talking like just a little tiny jail, like, you're not going to go spend a week in your local county jail. We're talking federal pound me in the ass prison. Hopefully some of you guys got that Office Space reference there. But yeah, you absolutely will get caught. This is very difficult to do in the first place. And the reality is you probably don't know the right people to make this happen anyway, right? You don't know how to do it, so you would have to hire someone to do it. You have really no way of vetting them to make sure that they know what they're doing and that you won't get caught. But also, you don't know if they're legitimate, if they're credible, or if they're just a scammer who's just trying to get your money. But really, the hacking or the DDoS side of things is a way that technically works, but I very much do not recommend this. So the next way that we can do that, though, is you can use a DMCA complaint to get defamatory content taken down. Now, a DMCA complaint, this is something that originated a long time ago. I think it was like 1999 or 2000, something in that time frame. It's the Digital Millennial Copyright Act. And essentially, if you file a DMCA complaint on a website or on a social media platform that is using your content, essentially what the host or the platform has to do immediately is, first of all, they have to suspend that content, and then they'll typically do a little bit of investigation of some sort. And if it is legitimately your content, or they're using your images, they're using something of yours on their website, on a website that they have, on social media, whatever, if they are legitimately using your copyrighted material, whether it's images, text content, video, whatever, if they are doing that, a DMCA complaint is a really good way to get it taken down. What will usually happen is the host will go, they'll do their investigation. If it turns out that it's a legitimate complaint and this person is doing something wrong, basically they will force them. If it's a web host, for example, they will force them to take that content out. If it's a social media platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, they will take that content down or make it so that it's not visible to anyone but the person that posted it. This can be a good strategy. I want to point out, though, there are caveats here. Fraudulent complaints are illegal. So you can't just go make up a false DMCA complaint to try and get something taken down, because they could turn around and sue you for that and probably come after you a lot harder than you might expect. because then you start to get into things like tortious interference, defamation, all kinds of other things. So we don't want to do that. We want to only use a DMCA complaint if they have legitimately violated our copyrighted material, right? There was somebody who tried to use that tactic, the whole false DMCA complaint thing, to attack one of my clients. This was someone you guys have heard me talk about frequently, and you've seen her in some of the episodes as well, I think. But essentially, she had been scammed by a real estate investor here in Tampa, and to the tune of about, I don't know, $130,000, something like that. And so my client put up a website about this lady, and she constantly would file DMCA complaints at every web host that she put that website up at, right? So she would just get them nuked. Eventually, it ended up getting moved overseas. It's now on a server in China, and short of a court order, they're not doing a goddamn thing. But my client would have had every legal right to sue her for making these false claims. Now, that's not usually a good move. A lot of wasted money. Nobody wins but the lawyers. But if you file false DMCA complaints against the wrong people, there's a good chance that they may come after you. And if they have the funds to do so, man, they can bleed you dry fast. So only use a DMCA complaint when it is legitimate. Now, another way that you can do this is by getting a trademark on your personal name, on your company's brand name, on any products that you have. Like if you've got special names for your products or services, whatever. Trademarks like that can be really effective in getting stuff taken down if it's in violation of your trademark. Now, a couple of important caveats here. You have to have your trademark in place first. A little bit of backstory on that. The story that I was sharing earlier about the scam artist who ripped off my client. The scammer, by the way, her name is Lena Meadowcroft. She has tried all kinds of shady shit, and I'll walk through some of those situations with you guys, in addition to the one that I already shared. But essentially, you have to already have the trademark in place before you can make a trademark claim. If you had the trademark, or if you're in the process of getting the trademark, but somebody already has something up, they already have your name, your brand name, whatever. Like, and they may do this in a lot of different ways. They may set up a website, right? joesmithsucks.com, things like that. That's where trademarks can be really effective. So nobody can buy a domain or use it in any way that has your trademark name, whether it's a person, whether it's a company, whatever. Nobody can use that once you have your trademark. However, if they had something that they owned, that they set up, they published, they had it running, whatever, prior to you getting your trademark, there's not a damn thing that you can do. That trademark doesn't carry any weight because their thing was already up and running. Now, there is another fold to this, of course. Like if they are out there actively impersonating you, trying to present themselves as if they are you or your company, then yes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when your trademark happened. If they are representing themselves falsely as you, then you will still have a trademark claim regardless of when, how that old timeline played out. It's also important to note that this does not apply to all uses. So I mentioned the domains. If you have a trademark on Joe Smith, for example, then if somebody tries to buy the domain joesmithsucks.com, of course, you would be protected by your trademark. However, if they were to go put up a blog post about Joe Smith and they think you're a scumbag, they think you're a con artist, they think this, that, the other, a trademark won't help you in that regard. So it doesn't stop people from talking about you, but it does stop people from creating platforms around you, basically, right? They can always kind of follow the fair use, doctrine. There's probably a more specific legal term for this, but basically, if they are criticizing you, So for example, you see all kinds of news content, little clips of TV segments, stuff like that. You see that on social media all the time. And that's not copyright infringement because somebody is taking that video and using it to provide commentary on the topic. So there's no trademark, there's no copyright, there's no issue there. So I say this to reiterate that there's some pros to all of these tactics, but none of them are a silver bullet. None of them are going to completely give you like this nuclear option to take everything down, right? Usually it'll take a combination of these tactics. It may take some time. There may be some other things you can do, maybe negotiate with them, whatever. There's a lot of different ways, but none of these are a silver bullet that's going to solve every problem every time. This is something else that that Lena tried when she was trying to get my client's website taken down. She filed a complaint with ICANN, which is the governing body over all of the domain names, right? Every single domain name is under the authority of ICANN. And so if there is a dispute of some sort, right, somebody is saying that you're violating my trademark, you file a complaint with ICANN, and if it is applicable, they will actually take that domain and give it to the legitimate trademark holder. But remember what I said a little bit ago. You have to have already had your trademark in place. So when my client put up this website, once Lena had found out about it, she then went and applied for a trademark. Now, I already mentioned how that is not going to protect her. That's not going to give her any right to take it down. It doesn't change anything. But the funny thing was she took that application and used that to lie to ICANN in her complaint when she was trying to get the domain taken from my client. She says, oh, well, I have a trademark and they're infringing on my trademark and they are impersonating me. Well, the website describes the con that she pulled on my client. The website says, that she's basically a shitty person. There's no way to think that this is impersonating her in any way. Beyond that, she didn't actually have a trademark. She had submitted an application, which was still in pending state at that time. And if you know anything about trademark, you know that you're typically looking at, on the small side, at least 12 months before from application to legitimate approved trademark, right? She was out here presenting her application as if she owned the trademark on Lena Meadowcroft and nobody else could use it or say it or do anything in any way. Of course, ICANN could see all of that because the USPTO database is public. You can look all this stuff up and they could see that she was full of shit and that she didn't have a trademark. Yeah, no surprise, a known con artist lies and they continue to do so. But of course, she ended up losing that complaint. My client won. And ICANN actually published like the full write-up. So now she has an entirely new problem because she filed a false complaint. All of that information becomes public. So now that actually ranks on the first page for her name, in addition to the website that she was trying to get taken down, which frankly, I think is fucking hilarious because you're out here trying to, first of all, you've already ripped off my client. Now you're out here trying to lie about and defame my client and get her stuff taken offline. As a result of that, you end up getting even more problems out there. So this is really important that when we use any of these tactics, we do them in an authentic way. We do them legitimately. We don't lie. We don't use false information. We don't misrepresent. Because if you do that, it will backfire and it will create a much larger legal issue in the long run, right? Or not legal issue, I'm sorry. Well, maybe legal, but reputational, right? Public relations, perception of your brand, all of that stuff. So we want to operate with complete integrity here on this. Now, there is one more tactic that also can be effective in some cases. But if you're going up against somebody, A, who's overseas, or B, they know how this all works, they understand public relations, they understand trademark, they understand copyright, they understand defamation and all this stuff. they're probably not going to be too swayed by this tactic, and that is a legal threat. Now, I say threat because more often than not, it does not make sense to actually file and follow through on a defamation lawsuit. In fact, there was a video I did, God, I think it was a couple months ago. Chrissy, that link is in the outline for today's episode. If you could drop that into the chat for everybody, please, the YouTube link. I actually did an in-depth session on PRD a few months ago where we talked about whether defamation, a defamation lawsuit is a good PR strategy. And 99.9 times out of 100, I say the answer to that is no. And I explained it in depth in that previous PRD episode, which Chrissy will drop into the comments. It's not a good strategy because, first of all, it's incredibly hard to prove. And if you are a public figure, it's exponentially harder to prove because there's a very specific criteria for what falls under defamation in general, and then also what falls under defamation when it comes to public figures, and the bar is much higher for that. So I don't like a defamation lawsuit because it's expensive, it's time consuming, it's a waste of time. Usually the people that you would want to sue are fucking broke anyway, so what are you going to get out of it? Unless you just want to run them into the ground and break them financially, break them emotionally, which I'm a big fan of, right? Like scorched earth. Usually it's not worth the investment, and I use the word investment very loosely in this case. That was actually something that Lena had tried as well. She sent us, she actually sent me, she sent my client, she sent the several of the media outlets that had covered the stories related to this situation. She sent everybody legal threats, basically saying, take this down or we're going to sue you, blah, blah, blah. We all ignored it. We told her, look, this is our First Amendment right. This is a telling of the story, right? So no, it's not defamation. We're not taking it down. Basically, go fuck yourself. And the funny thing was she actually sent that letter at like 4:30 on the day before Christmas Eve, when they knew that nobody would be around, or they thought nobody would be around to even see it. And they gave some silly arbitrary deadline. Our lawyer just waited until about 5 minutes before the bullshit deadline that her attorney made up and said, yeah, I'm out of town. I'll respond back to this when I get back in a few weeks. And I'm sure that infuriated her. But basically then when he got back in a few weeks, he responded and said, hey, this is First Amendment. You have no legal basis to demand this. If you want to sue us, we'll see you in court. So that was kind of fun. Some people will get scared by a letter coming from a lawyer's office. But it's not a silver bullet. I've received tons of these. Usually what I'll do is I will just laugh at the people, or I will troll the lawyers. Usually I'll double up whatever I'm doing that they're already pissed off about, because I don't really give a shit. And I think that if they want to sue me, they can sue me, and we'll make the whole thing even louder. But if you find yourself on the other side of that situation, this could be a tactic that can work with some people, but only if they're based in the US. And really, it all comes down to the perceived threat, right? You're probably not going to go through the lawsuit. If you do, you may find that you can actually file the lawsuit, not have to take it all the way through. But once it becomes real for them, then they may be likely to take it down just so that they don't have to deal with the fight, which is totally fine, right? Still the outcome that you're looking for. So those are 4 tactics that you can use to get defamatory content taken down. Now, I want to reiterate, none of these are a silver bullet. None of them are going to work 100% of the time, 100% of the cases. But you can use them all together. You can use them, you can even use them over and over, right? There's a lot of different things you can do. But if you use the 3. We're not using the hacking. So 3 tactics. If you can throw everything at them, all 3 of those tactics, and maybe in multiple different ways, that could give you a good chance to basically make it to where it's not worth their while to continue with the bullshit. So this is something that, like I said, I've been on both sides of this. I've used these tactics. I've also been the target of these tactics. But this is the kind of thing that you need to know, because the more prominent you become, the more likely that you are to be attacked, and the more aggressively you will be attacked, and the more people that will attack you. So take note of these. If you find yourself in this situation, look at these tactics and see where your options are. And I do want to back up real quick, talk real quick about the trademark. Don't do that shit yourself. I would say I know a fair amount about this stuff. I filed my own trademark on something a few years ago, and I figured it would zip right through because I understand intellectual property. I understand legal stuff pretty well. Man, that went so fucking sideways. I didn't end up getting the trademark, which is fine because it was for a project that I ended up just abandoning anyway. But it's really important to get a good attorney who understands trademark to set your shit up. The one I recommend for this, the one I refer people to all the time, the one I go to when I have a question or I need something, is Angela Langlotz. We'll drop a link to her. I don't know. We'll probably throw like her LinkedIn or her website or something in the description later on here. But getting it right, first of all, makes the process a lot faster. It also makes it a lot more likely to be approved. You're probably not going to get your trademark approved if you try and do it yourself because you don't know what the fuck you're doing, which I learned myself a few years ago. Even though I thought I did a lot of things wrong. So stick to somebody professional, and that's also going to help you when it comes time to defend your trademark as well. If it's set up properly, it's a more defensible trademark. So use these tactics. They're incredibly effective. On the other side of things, man, you can also use these if you're on the other side. If you're trying to, tell a story about someone who did something wrong, just know that these potential tactics could be used against you as well. And in knowing that, you know how to approach things so that they can't take your stuff down. So that will give us a segue into Jeremy's PR PSA, which is what people find out about you online, whether it's true or not, determines how they see your brand. So you need to control your online presence. So of course, we're going to get out there. We're going to put up all of our best information. We're going to try to get our media features, our podcast episodes where we're a guest, or our own podcast for that matter. All of the things that we're out there doing, all of the things that showcase us in a positive way, we want to make sure that that shows up when people search for our name. We want to make sure that it's as high in the search results as possible. We want to make sure that we've got all of our social media profiles, everything that really would matter. And then we also want to take down the negative shit. We want to take down the shit that's going to cause problems for our brand, cause reputational damage. And these 4/3 tactics are very effective ways to do that when used properly. So that's going to be a wrap for today, guys. Quick note, a little bit of housekeeping here. I did drop a post in the group earlier this morning, basically asking y'all for a small favor. If you know of anybody who would benefit from the information that we teach here on Public Relations Declassified, anybody who is great at what they do, but they aren't as well recognized. They aren't an authority, a recognized authority in their industry. Somebody who wants to go out and make a bigger presence so that they can create more impact and serve more people. If you know anybody like that who could benefit from what we teach in here, I would love it if you would invite them into the Public Relations Declassified Facebook group. And so that is my ask of you guys. So thanks in advance, first of all. And second, I will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks, guys.